Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm going to go ahead and do a stream on a semi-viral video. It's called The Ugly Truth of Trucking. I think I got the title wrong in my title now that I'm looking at it, but it doesn't really matter. I just finished fueling, so I'm going to go ahead and pop out real quick, unhook, and go ahead and get on the road. Oh, alright. I'm going to be driving, so I won't be able to respond to the chat or anything like that. Wicked. It's a great show. So if you want to chat, just know that I won't see it because I got to look at the road. So that's my job, is to drive the truck, not to play on YouTube. So that being said, I do record these things because it gives me a camera inside my truck. If anything happens, I'm recording. So that's, I'm being recorded anyways, so I might as well record myself with my own camera as well. And I'm a multitasker, so if I'm going to be having all these thoughts in my head about something I'm listening to, I might as well talk about it. So this was something I was listening to earlier today, and it brought up a lot of things I want to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and play it, and we're going to listen to this together. And please comment, leave your stuff, your remarks in the chat. If anyone else is in the chat, talk to them or whatnot. But this is important stuff, so I'm going to talk about it.
Hello everybody, I'm sharing this video with you guys today to kind of promote knowledge and the ugly fact of truck driving that the vast majority of drivers experience day in and day out here on the road. Whether you're an experienced truck driver, you definitely have gone through this, I'm sure. If you're a prospective truck driver, you're in CDL school or thinking about getting behind the wheel, you will most likely experience this at some point. Or if you're a non-truck driver, this definitely affects you because truck drivers share the same roadways as you. And you experience the dangers that are brought to you because truck drivers are pushed beyond their limits. And
that is very
I'd
true.
like to lay a little groundwork about the video so I can best explain what's going on in the video. This was happened to me a few nights ago.
I'd never seen this video before today.
The night before,
it just kind
I had
of
done
came in when I was listening to some
what's called a 10-hour break.
and I found it interesting.
It's basically we're allowed to drive a certain amount of time.
Because I've been
knowing
through
all
this
of the
before.
laws, but we're allowed to drive 11 hours per day within a 14-hour window, and when that time is up, we have to do a 10-hour break. And I had just done a 10-hour break, and I was instructed to drop my empty trailer off.
So he was awake in his morning, getting ready to start his day,
then once I did
had his
wake up,
break of sleeping,
my company
and then his
instructed
company
me
pretty
to
much
drive
screwed
20
him and
miles
said,
roughly
we
down
don't
the
have
road
any
to
freight.
drop an empty trailer off and get
You're going to
another
take this
10-hour
trailer 20
break.
miles, and that's going to be your
Now,
day.
being
Go ahead
that
and
I'm
shut
not a
down
machine,
after that. It's ridiculous.
I could not
They
go
do
back
this
to
type
sleep
of thing to people all
after
the
only
time.
being awake for
And I'll
roughly
talk a little
30
about
minutes.
that too.
And the company told me that once that second 10-hour break was up, I had to get moving, had to start driving. I had a load that picked up in Livonia, Michigan, that was heading towards Oak Creek, Wisconsin. And I picked up the load, getting no sleep, zero sleep at all. Just could not sleep, being because I was fully rested on the first 10-hour break.
After you sleep 10
So I
hours,
picked up the load,
you're not going to be
I
able
headed
to
the
sleep
west
for a
side
good
of
long
Michigan
time if you're a normal person.
I-94.
You kind of adjust a little bit as a truck driver, but
I was starting to fall asleep.
He talks about
the
it
wheel.
a little bit later in the video.
There's a point in the video
this not being the first time in
mentioned
that particular week
I don't
they
want to
flopped
hurt
the
anybody.
schedule around.
To
because you can
someone
kind
in
of adjust
authority at
maybe if
this
they do
company
it to
that
you
I'm
once
working
in a
with.
week or something.
And you guys can judge for yourself his response to when I tell him
now, this is
that
very
I don't want to hurt
interesting.
anybody.
This is very interesting. Now you guys gotta
behind the wheel.
You gotta remember this is one of the major, biggest truck driving companies
at any given time behind the wheel of this 18-wheeler. I can kill somebody in just an instant.
And in all their safety classes, they tell us this. That you're the captain of your ship.
Could really change someone's life.
You need to be in charge of your sleep.
And
if you're unsafe to drive, you need to make sure you tell us that and stop driving.
I knew I was getting sleep.
And sleep is a legitimate thing that they run a lot of their safety programs around. They train you on how to deal with your sleep.
The lives of others that are out there on the road.
It's why laws are made. It's why these laws even exist.
So I did stop.
10-hour laws and everything is because they need to make sure we get our sleep for safety reasons.
The video, and please leave down in the comment section your opinions. And if you're a driver,
so basically what they did to him is he came
off
his last load.
Before.
They didn't have anything. They gave him a little trailer move. He stopped his day. His day was like a 20-minute day, and then they immediately dispatched him for the nighttime when he would normally be sleeping. So they screwed up his sleep schedule
instructing their employees to operate.
Which happens. It does happen, and you have to adjust. But you just have to listen to this.
And I would like to say that the following day that the situation was taken care of, and I was told that the people that had told me to continue driving
something to be aware of
were
because it's important.
Spoken to through management at the
especially
company.
You know what, as a truck driver who has to deal with all these laws that people that don't drive trucks make.
I hope you guys can learn something about this. Please,
I'm going to get into that, why some of these laws are actually unsafe.
What I feel,
and I'll get into that,
is something that happens way too often, but no one actually ever sees it.
This is a particular thing that's happened to me that I've had to deal with. I'll talk about how I've dealt with it in the past.
Hear about companies pushing drivers beyond their limits, and I'm just glad I was able to capture it.
It only makes practical sense that if you're awake all day and then you're dispatched at night, you're going to be getting tired.
When I go back and watch it, it really makes me angry.
And this guy handled this the right way. I'll tell you that.
The same response to this.
There have been other truck drivers,
I
guess, in his comments who disagree, but I'll give you my take. I think he handled it the exact right way.
Hey, what's up, man? This is Abe, truck 80714.
80714. What can I do for you?
Hey, man, we got a bit of a problem, dude. I'm starting to fall asleep going down the road here. And I don't have much of a window on this load.
No, get much sleep today?
No. I got a good 10-hour break in yesterday where I slept a whole lot, and I drove 20 miles, and I was told to go on a 10-hour break again.
Exactly.
Which I don't sleep very well after being awake for 20 minutes after a full night of sleep, you know?
Right.
Kind of
can't go immediately back to sleep so you're rested when you wake up and do your night shift after being on the day shift.
Get a cup of coffee, walk around the truck, do something?
I already did that earlier, man.
Now he says he already did this. Now listen to how many times they repeat this as the
falling
solution.
asleep behind the wheel.
That's not a good thing here.
No, sir.
No, not a good thing. Time to stop and shut it down.
Yeah, we're going to have to do something. I doubt if we get a truck around to rescue a load at this time of the night.
Right.
And you find out by listening that they're in the Gary, Chicago area, so there's going to be trucks around there. Might be a pain in the ass for them to find, but they can fix
You've only
it.
been at it there for a couple hours.
Yeah, oh yeah. I've been awake like 17, so...
17 hours. I mean, I've done that.
Well, you have to get a cup of coffee, do something.
Yeah, well, I can't drive no more at night.
He's straight up saying that he's having like incidents of micro sleeps coming on, which they teach you about. That's why he's using their own terminology. They teach you about.
Yeah, a little bit earlier, and he called me several times throughout the day. And
he's asking why he didn't tell his dispatcher about this earlier.
Really foresee me getting this tired.
He just said I didn't foresee it being this problem, but now it is.
Eric, you want it?
And that's true. A lot of times as a truck driver, you don't foresee something becoming a problem until it is. I mean, you can foresee a lot, and you learn to as a truck driver, but not everything.
80714.
Yeah.
And we got a little issue here.
So now he's having to go through this again with another person.
Staying awake going down the road right now.
Okay, I mean, what do we do all day here?
See, that attitude,
I mean, I got a good
it's your
10-hour
fault
break
automatically. It's your
last
fault.
night,
What'd you
and I
do?
was told
Where'd you screw up? And listen to the dismissive, like,
we got dude, just get out of the truck and walk around the truck, get some fresh air here.
now he's going through this again with the next guy. He already said that. Now he repeats himself.
Do it again here.
Do it again. You know what I would tell this guy? I'd be like, hey, I'm going to sleep. My conversation wouldn't have been as long as this guy's, but this is very interesting.
Might have a truck in Oak Creek and take it to Woodridge, but we got to be able to get it to Oak Creek because I don't have any extra.
Yeah, figure it out, dude. Dude needs to go to sleep. He's putting everyone around him
road, man. I mean, I'm
at
not
risk
safe
by not going to sleep.
Get some coffee.
Get some coffee. They tell you in the safety programs that coffee and caffeine is not the answer.
Get some coffee.
So this goes right against their safety training. It's so funny.
We don't have anybody, especially not Sawyer.
When I say they, I mean all the major truck driving companies. They pretty much all have the same type of safety. And I've worked for 3 of them now, so I know this is because they all have the same safety training.
Well, what's going on this morning?
Hey man, I'm having a hard time staying awake going down the road.
Well, let's get out and do some jumping jacks in that cold air.
Now that is a way to wake up, he's right. But he already said, I've been out and walked around a few times, I need to go to sleep, I'm having some incidents.
About 10 degrees outside?
Yeah.
That'll wake you right up, right?
Well,
right?
And I was like starting a micro sleep going down the road.
Yeah, so
there it is, the terminology, micro sleep. That's something he learned from safety training. These guys should say, oh, well, if you're experiencing those incidents already, we need to get on this for safety reasons. But that's not what happens.
Today about getting plenty of sleep during the day, or what happened there?
Now they get back onto him. It's your fault. Why didn't you talk to your dispatcher and tell him? Listen to his response again.
On this load where I was told to just drop my empty off 20 miles away from where I was and then get another 10-hour break, which
that happens in this business.
And it does. It does happen.
Once in a while, but I mean, this is
the second time it had happened to me the same way.
That happens, some days quite a bit.
Yeah, it does sometimes.
This is the first time.
Depending on who you work for, and I would say if it keeps happening to you, freaking leave that company. Tell you what. Now this is interesting. In other words, I could be a complete dick right now. If that's what you want, I'll do
I
it.
can start screaming at you. You can start screaming at me. If that's what it takes to get you awake, that's what we'll do.
If it was like
learn around the truck, do a couple jumping jacks, get some fresh air. Because I'm gonna tell you, the fresh air is gonna get you woke up better.
He already had some fresh air. He already told 2 of you that, and you that a couple times.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's get to Oak Creek if we can.
Well,
can you help me commit to that?
No, I don't know, because I'm telling you, I'm not safe to drive at the moment.
Okay, well then here's the deal. Okay. Let me tell
See,
you.
it's all about these guys' numbers. They have to recover this load. That goes on their numbers, right? The night shift. It goes on their night shift numbers.
Okay.
So they're incentivized to harass this truck
We're going to be out
driver.
cash today.
Okay.
Understand that full, square, well, and good. That's going to be a big deal this morning.
So he's saying, when everybody comes in the morning, we're all going to be talking about you.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to get some sleep.
No, that's not how we work here, KB. You lay down for 1 hour, or what are we going to do?
I'm going to...
We can't lay down and take an 8-hour break.
They're like, you want to lay down for 1 hour? You can't take an 8-hour break.
I understand where you're coming from. You want the
No, I'm not coming from anywhere. This is how we work.
It's a freaking load, people. This guy's a truck driver. All right, they're 2 different things. It's a load and a truck driver.
We're gonna have you take
they treat people so horribly bad. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't put up with this.
You're gonna take this load. You're gonna take his load.
I respect this guy for recording it though and putting it out there and letting people know what these people are doing.
All right, so it's not where I'm coming from. It's what we got to do.
Right.
We work with try, KB. We do yes, no, and whatever we need to do.
Yes, no, and whatever we need to do. No try. So now they're putting it back on him. They're saying, you took this dispatch. Why didn't you tell us right away that you couldn't do it? Why were you saying you'd try it? It should be yes, no, and that's it. Now that is acceptable to a certain extent, but if you're, I'd say if there's one.
I say I'm not gonna hurt anybody out here.
Exactly. You can't foresee everything. You can't foresee everything. Like I said, when he took the load, he intended to get it done. Now, all of a sudden, you're having a hard time staying awake. You're supposed to pull over and go to sleep. Now they could call the place and say, "Hey, look, we're going to be late on the load. It may cost them some money." If you keep doing this to them over and over, there's a problem. But it doesn't sound like this is something that he's done to him before. I could be wrong.
It came down to where it went tonight. Are we clear on that?
Yes, we are clear.
Okay, so when you have a $400 paycheck, I don't know if you have a wife at home. And she's
now this is where they start to get really manipulative. They're like, your pay is going to get fucked. We can't guarantee your pay anymore after this. Because they do a minimum pay guarantee every week. Now they're telling him that he's getting a service failure and that his pay isn't going to be a guarantee. And basically, they could fuck him even harder and probably will. So he's threatening him. And he's bringing his family life into it.
If I get a 2-hour nap in, I should be able.
Which is not safe to do to somebody who's already stressed out enough. Which is probably why he took the load to begin with, because they fucked him already twice this week. So he needs these loads in order to make a paycheck, and they're reminding him of that in a very stressful way. This is wrong. Everything about it is wrong. And now he's saying, you could be a good driver, I understand, you're Muhammad Ali, whatever. Right now, you're kind of messed up.
I cannot do this, or yes, I can do this.
Right back to his fault. You should have told your dispatcher.
I'll try.
And I'll talk to this after
this is something
but I want you to hear all this.
Actually, multiple times.
See, he says he's already been doing that with his dispatcher. He's already told his dispatcher when they dispatch him stuff like this, it's not good. You know, he's already went through that.
You gotta be kidding me, y'all. They called the police to wake me up.
And this is another thing I'll talk about is what they do to us, what the cops do to us. All right? I don't know what video is going to start after this one, but we'll deal with it. Pretty soon I'll be
what's up, everybody?
I'll be pulling over
boy,
anyways in about a half hour.
Good morning.
So it looks like we got just some truck driving videos coming in.
March.
But I'll talk about this last one. Now, last time this cycled through, whatever was playing, it was just random playing stuff. It had like his response video as well, all right? And in his response video, he talked a little bit more in depth about the situation. It ended up going like semi-viral, and it caused the company some problems. And it made them address the situation and take ownership to the fact that what these people did to him was not safe and was wrong. He actually went in and talked to one of the owners of the company and the safety, like president of the safety or whatever, the head of the safety.
But anyways, I want to get to the topic.
And he talked about that. He talked about it not being that he's trying to call out his company. It's just like the truck driving industry, and it really is.
I know that I said I wasn't going to be putting any more videos up on YouTube.
Now I'm just going to turn this down because I'm going to just talk about this. All right. Now I'm going to talk about what's happened to me and what I've done in these situations, because the guy started out the video saying, you know, he precluded it with, this is something that if you drive for a long time or just getting started, you're probably going to face this type of a situation. And it's right, and it's something they don't talk about. Like, they don't talk about it and tell you how to face it until he's in it and they're reading him down, right? Which is, tell your dispatcher right up front if you can take the load or not. And that's their solution, because they always want to pin it on you. But I'll tell you right out of the gate, there's some bad logic to that, because first off, you're upset because your day where they have you out on the road, because the guy talked about he'd already been working for like 8 or 9 weeks or something without a restart. So he's just going off they're just dispatching him, right? they're like continuously dispatching him, and not enough that he loses all of his hours, because you can just continuously work, because you have what's called 70 hours in 8 days, and every day past that 8 days you get hours back from the 8th day of the week before, right? So you're always getting hours back. So as long as you don't go over that 70 hours in 8 days, and it keeps like moving, and you keep getting hours back, you can keep working and working and working and not even ever take a restart or stop, ever. All right? You can do it for a year straight. There's no law against it. You can work every single day in a year. All right? You're not going to get to as many long days, because you're probably going to have a couple short days for it not to require a restart at some point. But it is possible, and they've been running this guy like that, at least according to his reaction video, for about 8 to 9 weeks, right? And this was the second time they flipped his schedule on him, where he wakes up to get his dispatch, and his dispatch is, or he goes to sleep, they dispatched him something, but he does his dispatch, and it's like 20 miles. It's a trailer move, and then they're like, oh, there's no freight, freight's light, we're going to go ahead and get you another dispatch, why don't you go ahead and go on your break? Well, he's already been done sleeping, and you can't get to sleep right after you've been done sleeping. Or, I'm not saying it's impossible, because I've done it, because I've had to in these situations, but especially twice in the same week, that's going to be kind of rough, all right? So, now, he talked about his comments after the video, and you're always going to get these truck drivers that want to, for some reason, defend these big companies and pin it on the truck driver. They're truck drivers trying to pin it on the truck driver, all right? With what he should have done so he wasn't in this situation, so he didn't cost the company money and make them have to try to recover their load, is what they call it, right? And it's just a bunch of ridiculousness, all right? Because they forget that people are people, and that's the number one thing. If you have a good truck driver, sounds like this guy's a good truck driver. As far as, I haven't watched any of his videos except for that one that just happened to play when I had YouTube on play and just was listening. But from how he's talking, he sounds like a truck driver who does care, especially the reaction video when he's talking about not wanting really to hurt his company. And the only reason why he posted it is because he brought it to higher ups and showed them the video and wasn't getting much of a response, so finally he just posted it to YouTube. And that's what garnered a response, because people started calling up their dispatch saying, hey, what's going on? Why is this on YouTube? This is unsafe. This and that, and it caused their company a problem, which I think more truck drivers should do that with some of their companies out there. Straight up. Because if it's a safety thing, I'm talking about safety things, all right? If there's a safety thing going on at your company, and you're bringing it to safety and it's not getting resolved or anything, and you record something like this, upload it to YouTube every day, all the time, because if they fire you over it or make your life miserable over it, you'll be able to get a lawyer. And this guy talked about his lawyer, so he's smart enough to know that, all right? That you have certain protections. You can't, they can come after you, make your life miserable, make you want to quit. But if you can document that whole thing, and I would if they start doing that to you, and you have the evidence to show your lawyer what they've done to you after you did something like this, you have a lawsuit, and a rightful, justified lawsuit, in my opinion. Anybody that's pushed out of a company because they start to have a voice about safety, that company deserves the lawsuit, in my opinion. And I'm not a litigious person at all. All right, the last thing I probably ever would do would bring a lawsuit. As a matter of fact, I'd probably start documenting everything and tell them that I'm documenting everything and that I don't want to bring a lawsuit. I just want my life to be good. I want my dispatches to be good. I don't want any retaliation, because I don't want a lawsuit, but I'd let them know that I'm preparing for one. I'll put it that way. So it's not that I'd be going after a bunch of money for free or anything. But if they don't handle it the right way, and you're giving them every which way about it to go ahead and handle it the right way, which it seems like this guy did, I could be wrong, that's really on the company. And, you know, that's how I feel about it. So I'll say it this way. We have to deal with laws out here driving a truck, and sometimes these laws are going to cause problems, all right? Now, for instance, this law, this 10-hour law, now, it sounds to me like this guy was going off of his 70-hour, probably, because he was talking about working for, you know, working past, you know, a couple weeks straight without restart, which to me means he's working pretty much every day, and he's not getting a restart, and he's not working a lot of hours every single day. When I say a lot, I don't mean like he's still not working a lot, because 7 to 8 hours a day to me isn't a lot. Think about it. 7 times 7, what is that? We all know what 7 times 7 is. It's 49. So you could work 7 hours a day straight, and you'd only have 49 hours, and you'd be getting, in 7 days, and your 8th day would come around, you'd have way more than 7 hours to drive. You could drive an 11-hour day after working 7-hour days, all right? And so this guy could be getting like 6, 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. For me, a long day is like 9 or more hours, and I don't even think that's long, because when I was an owner operator, I would run over 10 hours every single day. I was out there if I could. Like, I'd run hard, and then I'd take my break and get all my hours back. That's just how I did it. Like, I'd run my clock. I'd run my 70 out every week. I'd get home sometimes with 2 hours, sometimes less than an hour on my 70 left on my... I mean, I ran hard, and I can get into that a little bit and how to do that in the future on some videos, but I just want to talk to this right now. And what I'm talking about is, if they didn't have that 10-hour law set up the way that they do, it would cause, and these laws didn't always exist. People were able to function without the government getting involved in how much they drive. And I'm not saying there isn't some legit reasons to make certain laws, but I think they should be more flexible, I'll put it that way. Because what happens is, in a situation like this, the guy could have possibly took a... Well, I'll get to that in a minute. He could have stopped and taken like a 2-hour nap, because somewhere in that video there's talk of sleeping for 2 hours, and he agrees to that, and then continuing on, which would have probably made the load late, but they would have got it there. He would have been able to get a nap in. Basically, they gave him they had somebody come recover his load and switched loads, where he took the other person, which wasn't going as far, and he could have delivered it, but he would only get 2 hours of sleep in before he was expected to deliver that other guy's load, and that guy would take his load. So really, to me, it sounds like they had a solution, and he even talks about this in the video, the reaction video he has to his own video, that, you know, they said that the dispatcher should have found this solution, because they did end up finding a solution before they, like, tried to harass him into driving unsafely, right? So it sounds to me like everything worked out in the end. They found another driver to take his load, and he took another driver's load, and everybody was safe, right? So the fact that should have been what they should have been operating on from the beginning, instead of trying to pressure him into driving, because say, what if this would have happened? What if and this is the company, I'd be thinking this way, and I'm sure they were. What if the driver said, okay, I will get out and walk around and then get on the road again, right? And he would have done that after having recorded this video, right? And then he would have drove for an hour and started to experience micro sleep. Maybe even pulled over again and walked around a couple times, got some coffee, got back in and started driving again. And all of a sudden he fell asleep at the wheel and killed a bunch of people, all right? Now that's a very realistic scenario for the result of what could have happened in this situation. If he would have been pretty much bullied and harassed into taking the load the rest of the way. And or somewhere in that video or later, I found out he had about 180 miles to go, so 3 to 4 hours, right, left. And that's to get in, also to get back out of wherever he delivers. So he probably had about 5 hours before he was going to be going to sleep again, right? So, you know, basically, if he would have done this and fallen asleep and killed a bunch of people and had the video, that truck driving company would have been in a lot worse place than they ever could have been just telling him to go to sleep, we'll work it out, we'll get somebody to take your load, which is what they ended up doing after all. Anyways, we'll get someone to take your load, you can take his load, get a couple hours of sleep, continue on, deliver that, take your break. And these are the types of solutions that you have to do sometimes. You know, it's not wrong that they were a little bit peeved about him taking that load and putting them in this situation, but the way they handled it should have been this. I'll tell you how I would have handled it on the other end. Okay, I understand, as I would have said, I wouldn't have even said get out of your truck and walk around a few times, no matter if that's what everybody was telling me to tell these drivers or not. I would, as soon as he said I was starting to have issues where I'm almost falling asleep at the wheel, I would have said, well, buddy, you're the captain of your ship and you know best yourself. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this resolved. It might end up costing the company money, and that's never a good thing. Maybe you should have foresaw this a little and talked to your dispatch about maybe potentially not being able to drive this load all the way. But I understand that maybe you thought you could. In the future, if you think maybe you could and you're not sure, you need to just tell them you can't. But we're going to deal with this right now, you know. Safety is the number one thing, all right? So what we need to do is go ahead and get this resolved, and I'm going to start working on that. I'm going to keep you on the phone until we do get it resolved, because I might need your input on all sorts of questions I might have. So let's do this, get you to sleep so you can get a nap or a full sleep, and we can deal with the situation we're in. That's how I would have dealt with it, all right? Then I would have found that guy, that driver, and said, okay, we got a driver. You know, we're going to switch loads on him. We're going to go ahead and have him take your load. You're going to take his. Can you sleep for 2 hours and deliver his load in the morning and then go ahead and shut down? You think 2 hours of sleep would be able to get you through this hump? If not, you know, we'll deal with something else. But and if this guy was cool with it, I heard it in the video, so he was like, okay, I can do that, right? So the solution would have been a done deal. Yeah, in the morning, and I wouldn't have made him feel 1 ounce of stress over this whole thing. I wouldn't have gave him a service failure first off, unless it was company policy, like if like my boss was saying this is how we have to handle this. But I would have, if I would have had to give him a service failure, even that I would have went about it like this. I would have been like, you know, I'm gonna have to give you a service failure. I don't want to, because I know this thing happens from time to time where it's unexpected and you might have intended to deliver a load, but it's company policy, so I have to do it. But that being said, in the future, if this happens and you're unsure if you'll be able to complete the load, just go ahead and tell your dispatch that, so that up front they can either reach out to the customer and set up the appointment time for the next day, earlier in the day, or they can figure out where to relay it sooner than later, and we'll just stay safe from the get-go, and you won't even have to experience this type of micro-sleep incident to make yourself pull out over and do it, right? So there's professional ways to handle this type of a call on the company's end, all right? And it doesn't take a lot of, I mean, I haven't even been trained in this shit. This is only my common sense of being on my side of it, that I can understand a better way to deal with it on their side of it, all right? And that's their fucking job. So for me to be able to tell them the right way when they're doing it obviously the wrong way is kind of ridiculous to begin with. But it is what it is, all right? So what I would have done was made him feel comfortable in the fact that he called in and put safety first, because I would have even said that. I'd said, you know what, you might be having to deal with the repercussion of company policy, but you put safety first, and I commend you for that. You know, in the future, let's handle this differently so you don't get these type of repercussions on a bad situation like this. I would have owned up to it being a bad situation. Because it is a bad situation when your driver's out there only getting 20 miles on his day, and he has to make a judgment call of whether or not sleep is more important than a dispatch, right? Because he talked about he was afraid that there would have been repercussions if he would have tried to, like, deny the dispatch. And I'm sure he has reasons for feeling that way after hearing how these people were dealing with him. I'm sure he has a good reason for that, all right? So there's the right way to deal with it. So maybe you did have to give him a service infraction. I personally, if it was my discretion, I wouldn't have gave him one. But if it was company policy or something, I would have gave him one. And not only that, I would have said, and not only that, I understand, I'm going to actually personally send a message to your dispatcher and let him know what we did, and that we had to give you a service violation, and that it was a bad situation that you were put in. So maybe that will be on their radar not to put you on in these situations. I would have owned up to it being a bad situation. Now, sometimes freight's so light, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no good solution. If I was on the dispatch end of this, though, before all this even started, instead of sending my guy a bad dispatch starting out that night, I would have said, okay, you just came off your 10-hour. We've already been through this a couple times, because it sounds like he had already been through it a couple times with this dispatch. We've already been through it a couple times. What we're going to do is you get paid for sitting, right? We're not going to dispatch you and make you drive all night after you're awake already. It's going to mess you up. Would it be acceptable to sit you and you can go out the following morning? We could keep you on the same schedule, or maybe early that morning you could try to get to sleep a little bit earlier tonight, and we can get you going early AM, and we'll give you some detention time and let the company eat it a little bit, you know? Let it hurt my numbers in my group of people for safety reasons, and for the driver, you know, the guy out there moving your freight, the one that's going to continuously get frustrated if you keep putting him in these situations over and over again. Eat it. Eat that time, whatever. Eat that time that you have to sit him, because a lot of these companies, if they sit you for too long, they have to start paying you hourly, and they don't even pay you hourly at like that big of a rate. It'd be something like $10 an hour. So they might have to like eat it, where if he sits for like, say, 16 or 18 hours, they might have to eat $180. That's $180. Now, if that keeps their driver moving, they got over the hump of the light freight out there, and they can get him moving again and get him making money again, and he had a little bit of change for sitting around, he's going to be less likely to go, man, I have to take this dispatch. I have to take it to feed everyone in my family, or whatever his financial situation is. It puts you in a situation where you almost feel, A, like you have to take it because you're being dispatched it, and they might make you feel some sort of way about denying a dispatch. And B, you might want to take it because it might be the freight they give you, and they might be inclined to screw with you if you don't. And take that thing like that thing, you know, he said the guarantee pay that he was going to lose because of this. Maybe his guarantee pay would have been affected by denying the dispatch. Now, that would be wrong. That would be a safety concern. Maybe not. Maybe the company, if you deny a dispatch right up front and say, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to get to sleep. I'm so well rested, and you're giving me a long dispatch that I'm going to be really putting myself in a bad situation after already having had this done to me this week. I guess I have to deny this dispatch. I don't want to. I'd want a better dispatch. Maybe you can give me a dispatch going out at 4 a.m., and I can try to get to sleep a little earlier tonight and make it all work. Now, there's ways to make this stuff work. I mean, these things are going to happen in trucking, all right? And I just gave you a couple of ways to make it work on the driver's side and on the dispatcher side. Because I've had this happen to me, and the things that I'm saying are the things that I did to make this happen, right? They are my actual solutions to the problem that the company worked with me and worked out. Because you can't just let yourself be run over by these truck drivers. I mean, by these companies, because they know who you are. They interact with you. They know if you are a passive person who lets everything and anything and everything happen to them, and they can take advantage of that by all of a sudden they're sitting in their chair dispatching. They're like, wow, we don't have a lot of freight. We're going to have to start making some guys have some light days. Well, I know this guy doesn't mess with me. Every time I give him a light day, I don't hear boo, so I'm going to go ahead and send him a light day. Well, that guy could be sitting in his truck getting extremely pissed off about that light day every time it comes to him, but he never says anything to anyone about it, right? Now that's a problem. That's a problem on you and your company, really. I mean, because that can end badly. That can end badly by the guy just getting so pissed off he quits. That can end badly by the guy pushing himself and doing things that he shouldn't. That can end badly in a lot of different ways. So I know it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy, but I would say if you want to be a successful truck driver, one of the top 5 things I would tell you to do is to grow a backbone and to not let people push you around or put you in situations that are not acceptable. And that's up to you on a personal level on what you think's acceptable. Now, the company might not think what you think's acceptable is what they think is acceptable, but you have to stand up for yourself and say, hey, look, this is not acceptable for me. It does not work with me. It does not work with me for you to dispatch me for 20 miles and then expect me to shut down for 10 hours and start driving 10 p.m. or whatever it is. And then I gotta, I just woke up at like 6 this morning, so how's that gonna work, you gotta stand up for yourself. So I think it's a good thing that this happened with this guy and he was able to record it and put it out there to let truck drivers know what can happen to you, what some of these truck driving companies might try to do to you. And if I were you and you're experiencing these types of things, I would record it just like this guy. And I would send it. He said he sent it in to people before he put it on YouTube. He was trying to get them to do the right thing, which is what I think you should do before you just go ahead and post something like that on YouTube. Because that is a company, that's a lot of people that are employed. It causes that company issues, all right? But I would say go ahead and watch his video on your own. Watch his reaction video. I'm pulling over now. I'm going to scale my load, so I'm going to be getting off here soon. But I just wanted to share that because safety is important and sleep is important to that. The truck driver knows their own limits, and you need to make sure that the people on the other end of the phone, if you're dealing with some nasty people like this guy was, straight up nasty people, that have a chip on their shoulder and they have numbers that they're incentivized to have certain things not happen as much, like recovering loads. You're going to deal with this if you get the wrong people on the other end of the line, which happens quite a bit, that the wrong people are on the other end of the line, and it's just a whole cluster fuck of, you get one hand safety training, the other hand unsafe dispatching practices. And you got to deal with that as a truck driver. But it's something that needs to be talked about, right? Because really, if the guy didn't have to take a 10-hour break and lose 10 hours, he probably could have went and got his dispatch, say it was at 10 p.m. and he woke up at 6 a.m., right? He did his little 20-mile thing and was done with that around 8, because maybe he didn't get dispatched that until 7 or so or whatnot. So he's done with his stuff at 8. They're looking for loads. They've been having him sit and waiting for a couple hours. So now it's 10 or 11. They're not finding anything. They tell him, go ahead and take your break. It's 11 o'clock now. We're going to dispatch you to go pick up a load at 10 p.m. You'll be done with your break at 9. That'll give you time to get into the load. Now, right then and there is the time to go ahead and fix this situation, or at least talk to it with your dispatch in a real way, okay? And I'll talk about that in a second. Right now I'm pulling onto my scale, so I'm gonna scale this load and park, and I'll talk to you, finish this video up while I park, and we'll be done. Come on. Sometimes they take a minute to get on the phone because they're dealing with people inside and outside. Sometimes I have to hit that button more than once. We'll see if it's one of those days. Yeah, it's my first way. 770.
Alright, that's right. I'll see you inside.
Thank you. Alright. So the way to deal with it is, if that happens to you, now all of a sudden you're supposed to drive for like 10 hours, right? 8 hours, 9 hours at 10 o'clock, right? That puts you awake till probably 6 or 7 in the morning, right? Which means that you would have been up for 24 hours if you didn't find a way to get sleep, right? But the thing is you're supposed to be driving when you're trying to find a way to get sleep. So you're in a really bad situation, right? So what you do is you tell them that you're in a really bad situation. You make them acknowledge it. And you say, hey, look, I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to be able to sleep. You're trying to dispatch me at 10 a.m. Why don't you just find me something in the morning, going out early in the morning? I can try to get to sleep and get, earlier tonight. I can make that kind of an adjustment. And I'll be awake real early in the morning, and I know you're going to have dispatches. So why don't you dispatch me one of those loads, and we'll make this work, all right? So frustrating. I'm just trying to park and go in real quick, and I drove by 2 different spots that got taken right as I drove up to them, and they were the easy spots, and I'm trying to pick the easy stuff so I can get in and out of here. Here we go. Found a spot. So anyways, what you want to do is say something like that. Say, hey, it's early enough. You just dispatched this to me. Can you give it to somebody else and give me something and give me some detention for making me sit? Straight up like that. And work with them. And if they're not working with you, that's really on them at that point. But you got to try. You can't just not do what I just said and say, oh, I'll try to do it. Or maybe you can, but you're going to find out that something like this will happen to you, where you'll get tired and not be able to drive at the end of it, and you'll have to call in and deal with all that. So that's my reaction to this video. Everybody have a good one. Acoustic Stevo out.